When I was younger, I always wanted a job. Well, more specifically, a job that I can work at while I was in school. But for some reason, my parents, they always wanted me to just focus on studies, which I understand now looking back. But in high school, I was like contemplating, not contemplating, I should reiterate. I would have been, I really wanted a job. Like, I needed it. Like, without it, I have no purpose in life type of need. But my parents were so adamant that I focus on my schoolwork that they don't mind like paying for everything, whether it be me hanging out with friends or if I'm getting just buying stuff for myself. My parents have always been so generous and I appreciate them for that. But now I've graduated and now I'm on the age where I should possibly be looking for at least a minimum wage job, which I've been doing so. But the thing is, when I did become an adult, when I turned 18, quarantine hit, so meaning that it was kind of hard to find a job, with unemployment skyrocketing at an all-time high, businesses shutting down. It's been hard for me, but I thankfully was able to find a job, but let me tell you how my process went. So I'd say starting back in August, I kind of tried to look for a job. I was just browsing through and I find out that my friend, he works at Target. And I'm like, "Hey, you think you could hook me up with a job?" And he says, "I could try." So I applied to Target at this is around August, and then I was basically just waiting back from them. But what I didn't realize is that I listed my availability as limited, meaning that I can only work certain days of the week. And there was an option where I could have chosen open availability, meaning that they could call me whenever I want and I'd be available whenever. But looking back, but at the time I figured like, I thought it was just like school, I could just, work a job as if it was a school day, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, probably 9 to 5, but that's not the case. So I didn't realize that, but I still applied, and then school started for me for the first semester of college. So it passed. And then I'd say around winter break, aka around possibly like a few weeks ago, I get an email saying that like, oh, I'm sorry, but we kind of had to reject your target application because you don't fit the requirements. And I was like a little bit like I kind of expected it because at that time I was like, now I know, because my friend told me that I should have applied for open availability, but now they didn't offer it anymore because well, it was the Christmas season, so you know. But anyways, so when the semester ended for my college, that's when I started grinding. I looked for jobs. I applied the job to Amazon. I applied to Foot Locker. I even applied to Walmart. But unfortunately, none of those options came out. So, but let me tell you the process. So, I how I looked up for jobs, I literally Googled jobs to apply online, which you should not do, by the way, because what they don't tell you is that you'll be spammed with a bunch of notifications. I mean, spam, like and every single day until I basically shut down my email. I received so many notifications regarding getting a new job. For example, I recently, like at the time, I got a job offer saying like, "Oh, Wendy's is having job openings," or "This place is having job openings." "Oh, you a teenager that is trying to earn a minimum wage of at least $15? Why don't you apply to this job?" Yada yada yada. Now it's all good and all if it wasn't so far away because these jobs I live in Southern California. These jobs offered in Central California, which is almost a 2 hour drive at minimum. There is no way I'm gonna drive all the way to let's say Bakersfield and then drive all the way back, only working minimum wage for maybe 4 or 5 hours only. That's gonna like 1 week of driving is gonna cover my entire gas, you know? So obviously it wasn't worth it. And so let me tell you, or let me move on to now actually jobs that I was actually interested. So Walmart. I applied to Walmart basically like any other person would do. I just filled out the application. I just did orientation, yada yada yada, and then I submitted my application. However, they didn't really respond back in time. Like, I think it was almost a month until they finally responded that, hey, we're looking for you, even though I didn't need it at the time because I already applied to other jobs. So when that didn't work out, I decided to apply to Foot Locker. You know I'm knowledgeable in shoes. I have a pair of Air Force Ones, Reeboks, and a few NMDs in my closet, not gonna lie. I'm gonna flex on you haters out there, but I'm getting a pair of Jordans soon. But anyway, so I decided to apply for Foot Locker, but they didn't reach out to me like afterwards. And also, I think it was a good idea because I didn't read the job description. I accidentally applied to Lady Foot Locker, which basically only uh it only works with women's shoes. They primarily work with women's shoes, and I'm not a woman. At least not that I last time I checked, I'm not a woman. But yeah, that didn't work out. So then I decided to apply at Marshalls. My friend's brother works at Marshalls, so I decided let me give it a shot. So I go on their website and I try to find like where to apply. Usually to apply to a retail store, you have to scroll down to their website and it would probably say like careers or jobs and then you click and then you could apply for whatever. But unfortunately, Marshall's customer service is, I'd say, doo-doo because they don't have an online application per se. What you have to do is that you actually had to call them. So I did call them. I called the store location specifically, the one that's 2 miles away from me, which is the closest. So I called them and they put me on hold. And then they did an automated voice message saying, like, oh, if you're looking for customer service, press this number. If you're looking for store hours, press this number. You know, the whole introduction for being put on hold. But then I remember they told me that if you were looking to apply for a job, press 4, and I did. And I was on ringing. There wasn't even any music, man. I couldn't chill out and jam to any like phone music. No, it was just a ringing sound. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited. It's been about 20 minutes into waiting, and I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe I should call again. So I did the whole process again, and well, I waited again, and it's been about another 10 minutes, so I decided to, you know what, I'm just not gonna try because they're not even picking up the phone. And I looked, the store was open. It was about 6 p.m., but they don't close till 10 p.m. And yeah, it was open, but for some reason they didn't pick up the phone. So that job went out the window. However, I applied to another job. I should have mentioned this earlier, but my first job that I was actually successful at, meaning that I was able to get a job interview and all that, was at Tilly's. Tilly's, if you guys don't know, is a retail store that like primarily works with, I guess, a skate type of style and also pop culture in a way. So you kind of have brands like Champion, RSQ, Brooklyn, basically like stuff that skater kids would wear, or e-boys, as a matter of fact, as well. But I applied there, and it was pretty fast process actually. So I applied, and then the day after, they emailed me saying like they would like to schedule an interview with me on Monday. So I did schedule an interview with them on Monday, but what I didn't realize was that it was a group interview, meaning that there was going to be more than one person with me as they're interviewing for potential job opportunities. So it was me and this girl. I think her name was Brandy. Yeah, her name was Brandy. So they asked us the basic questions, like what makes you a good employee? Have you, like, if there is a situation with a difficult customer, how would you deal with it? The basic questions. But then the thing is, like in a group interview, when you answer a question, most likely the other person next to you is going to answer the same thing. But I think I had the advantage because they asked me the questions first, and 50% of Brandy's answers were similar to mine. But this question that they asked me, I think, is the reason why they gave the job to Brandy. And I know it's Brandy because I shopped there recently and I saw her working instead of me. But yeah, they gave the job to Brandy when I saw her. And the reason why is because they asked this question. They asked the question, have you had any prior job experience? Me applying to Tilly's would be my first job. I obviously said, no, this would be my first job. Brandy, on the other hand, said yes, she used to work as a receptionist for a salon. And then the hiring manager ended the interview there, and that was it. So I waited a week, and then I called them to see like, hey, I recently applied to your store. I was wondering if I made it, did I get a job? And unfortunately, they responded saying like, if you did not get a call within a week or so, the manager has already made a decision, and you did not unfortunately get the job. So I was a little bit disappointed, mainly because that was the first ever successful job that I was applied to. I was able to get an interview out of them. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed, not gonna lie. However, a few weeks would pass, and I'd say 2 weeks ago, I decided to apply to Macy's, which is another retail store, but primarily focuses on makeup. But I was desperate at this point, so I decided to apply. And they actually scheduled me an interview right away as well, like Tilly's a day after. But the difference is it was an over the phone interview, so meaning that I would not meet them in person. So I I I called their number at the exact time that they listed, and they asked the basic questions. But here's this: I had a life hack that my friend suggested me. When they asked the question, "Do you have any prior job experience?" Instead of saying no, because you can also include potential job volunteer work that you did at your local high school, like church or whatever. So I answered with, I do have prior job experience. However, I was not paid for my services. I listed that I was in my Interact Hub back in high school and my local uh, vacation Bible school at my church. So because of that, because I included that, I think the hiring manager was actually impressed with me, and she eventually hired me, and I start training on January 4th. So yeah, that was my experience with jobs and applications. So hopefully this story, I guess, enlightens your guys' views on when it comes to jobs and applying for them. And yes, it is, I won't say scary, but it is pretty difficult finding one, especially since you have not had prior experience, because as the saying goes, you need job experience to get a job, but then you need to get a job to get a job experience. So, yeah. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for listening.